Join us on AVE Live, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us on Zoom. Watch on Facebook or YouTube from the AV Educate page, or register as an attendee for the webinar. Live Q&A. Our guest will lead us through a guided demo and conversation about tonight's topic. We will take your questions and comments throughout the show. Don't wait until the end. Get your questions and comments in early to shape the conversation. We don't know it all. We're human and don't claim to know everything. We may demonstrate or discuss one way to do something, but that doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. If you found another way that is easier or yields better results, please share with the community so we can all learn together. Follow AV Educate. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and have a library of content on YouTube. Join us on Zoom for AV Tech Talks and to become a member of our community on Discord, where the conversations, the learning, and the sharing continues. We are where you are. Place your phone over the QR code to come learn more about AV Educate.
Hey, welcome back to AV Tech Talks. How's everybody doing on this Monday night? We are here, as always, AV Educate. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're here in the Zoom webinar. Come join us if you want on the Zoom webinar. Get closer to the action. That's where you get the behind the scenes, where you see me fumble with my buttons to make sure everything's going to work right, and troubleshoot audio issues. It's a fun time in the pre-show. So,
fumble with your buttons.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my Stream Deck buttons and
your
all that.
buttons.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Wait, did I cut out? Did I say something inappropriate?
No. I was making a joke. I'm sorry.
No problem. So we are here tonight. We did have something else planned, and then I made a scheduling mix-up. So instead of talking about Coyote systems today, what we're going to talk about is Mitti. Omar is going to give us an overview on MITTI, Mitti player. If you're unfamiliar, pretty cool playback software on Mac. It's super user-friendly interface. In the limited use I've had with it, I found it very user-friendly. I'll tell a story later about one of the shows I did with it. Oh, I see. I'm doing something silly there. I'll fix that in a second. Very easy to use. It also outputs NDI, which I think is a really cool feature for all of us who are doing, virtual productions with IP video. So definitely something we want to become aware of if we're not already familiar with it. So we did reschedule Coyote Systems. They're going to be back. Omar, remind me. I think that's August 2nd. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. August 2nd. They're going to kick off that month for us.
Cool. Awesome. So tune back in, but instead of Coyote playback systems, we're talking about a different playback system called Mitti. And Omar is going to kind of give us an overview. I don't know, has anybody on our panel had a chance to play with Mitti before?
When I started playing with NDI, I actually also downloaded Mitti and played with that a little bit, but it was months ago.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay. Jeff, I think you were just saying you hadn't had a chance to use that yet.
That's right. Yeah, I've heard about it a few different times, but I haven't ever used it.
Copy that. And Iris, same for you. Have you used it?
This is the first I've seen of it. I've been reading the website stuff as we've been talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. So maybe I'll tell that the brief story. So me and actually Nat, I think that was one of the first jobs. Nat, who is sometimes a contributor here on AV Tech Talks, we worked together where it was for the Chinese Department of Tourism at the Oculus here in New York City, and the people that we were working with had very limited English. They just didn't know much English. And one of the beautiful things about Mitti is it gives you thumbnails of the videos. So, and all the titles, everything was in Chinese. And Nat and I are not as fluent in Chinese as you would think we would be. So what was great was they were able to just point to the picture of the video that they wanted us to put up on the video wall, and we were able to select that for them. So it was that ease of user interface that I was talking about. You can have non-technical people or people who don't really know what they're looking for or something, or maybe don't know what the files are called, and they can see a thumbnail and go, that's the one I want, for when you're dealing with those clients who don't necessarily have the technical savviness, but really want that video played at that time. So really cool. And it was easy for us to navigate. Both of us were just learning it for the first time that day, and we were able to make this show happen, no problem. So with that, I'm gonna let Omar take it and kind of give us this overview. I'm very excited to learn even more about Mitti Player.
Yeah, so I'll jump into this. I'm gonna do a little screen share. I'll drag in some content so you guys can see what he was talking about with the icons and stuff. So why don't I just get into it, right? I've used Mitti in the past. I've been using it for a while. I kind of switched from Playback Pro to Mitti a while ago. I haven't done all the latest and greatest stuff with it. Again, I'm very video heavy, so I will try to get into some of the audio stuff, but I don't know all the answers. But I'll give you as much as I can and ask me any questions you guys have as we're doing this, because I would try my best to answer you. I have done this for installation stuff as well. I've used Mitti a couple times. So let me just do a screen share here real fast. And get the right screen. So I'm going to show
while you're
this.
pulling that up, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, just put your questions or comments in the comment sections. And if you're here in Zoom on the webinar, just ask your questions using the Q&A feature.
So let me know if you're seeing that window with the mouse.
Yes, we are. Thank you. We're seeing that.
Cool. All right. So right off the bat, if you guys have ever used Playback or Qlabs or any of those programs, there's a familiarity I just want to get into before we get into it. If you guys see the mouse right now, so this blank area here on the right-hand side, that'll be kind of like your program window where you see your content blow up in there. And I'll pull something in there in just a second for you. I'll actually pull up the show I just directed a couple of days ago. I'm going to drag it in from this monitor and drop it into there. So drag and drop abilities. Here's the first file. It's going to load in for a second. It's actually an 1.5-hour file. And then this will come up on this side once it gets uploaded. There it is, pre-lifting Miami Swim Week. I'm going to go ahead and click on the tab here. Here's the little icon. And the more of these you uploaded, let me see if I can find another one as well, just something random. Here's an edited version that we did for, whoops, so sorry. Lost it. This is an edited version we did for the social media side, so I'll drop that in there. And now you can see both those icons that Ed was talking about a little bit earlier. And as I click on these files, and now that one's an hour, almost 2-hour video there. So you guys can see already, I have the start time 00 right now. Total TRT is 1 hour, 53 minutes. That's pretty self-explanatory there. Some of the cool features that Mitti had when I first started using this, it took me a bit to get used to this function here. So there's an auto fade in and a fade out. You have to activate those on your own. The cogwheel here is for each input, and it'll show up on this will pop up, right? So some controls you have here in and out. You can change your in time and your out times. Geometry, you can change some of the geometry or aspects of it, kind of like you would in Playback Pro. Color controls here. Some generic stuff, brightness, contrast, red, green, blue, obviously. Video effects galore. So if you're a Resume operator, you've known a lot of these effects. They do a lot of different things in here. I haven't gone through all these. I've used XYZ Zoom before and Zoom. prior to when they had the geometry settings. This was a workaround that you could use. Again, audio outputs, I haven't really used this too much. I just made sure it was there and it went out. Transitions, and I will get into this a little bit later, but you can do transitions between the clips. And there's a certain way to set that up too, so that you can have different ones going on or sequence them or loop them through. And then miscellaneous, which is just changing titles, project duration, frame rate, general information about this. Another cool function, which we can get into a little bit later too, is if you have a certain codecs you want to use, you can preset this to only it'll convert to that codecs particularly. So if, let's say, whatever you're outputting wants to see a certain format, like watch out or a spider, for example, and you want to send certain codecs to it, this will transcode it for you in here as you drag it in here. So a cool little function to have as well. And again, so once you go here, and I'll do everything on the mouse just so you guys can see it as I'm doing it. So this is this is the transition on play select cue jump. This is the loop playlist, but I'm gonna go ahead and play here. You'll see it play through. Let me know if you guys are hearing that audio. I'm going to lower that.
Yeah, we definitely hearing the audio.
So here, I just killed that audio there because I'm actually lowering you guys as well. So this will go on for a little bit. You can see down here, you got the runtime going, right? 20, 21, 22, and then you got the countdowner here. So you can tell them how long you've been playing or how much time is left. And again, this is the show that I directed a couple days ago. If you went to the next one, to play on that one. Whoops. I got to highlight it. So see, I'll do this again so you guys can see that. If you look at the top bar here, when I change between the two, that's that when you add that dissolve effects. It'll do that. So essentially, I don't have anything in there. It defaults to this, right? But I'll go ahead and play this again. And you have this little eye down here, which will change the sizing of your preview, right? I'm sorry, it'll fade in and out. I've never had to use this. I'm not sure what it's really for. You can do 10, 20, 30. So let's say go to 30, go to 10. And here's my scroll wheel so I can scroll back. Whoops. There we go. So this is some of the show we did. So this is essentially what would be going out to the world. Now, let's say, for whatever reason, you were doing this directly to a projector, and the projector you want to go. So there's two ways you can do. Actually, there's one way to do this, and I'll show you different ways. So video setup. So video outputs, right from here, I just go to outputs on the every task bar. I can add how many screens I'm doing this to, how many projectors. So let's say doing 1x4. I could do span across display. So I'll take my one display and span across all four. I could do edge blending per one. Let's say I did edge blending. So zoom to fit. I got some built-in stuff here, so you can see my two monitors that are plugged in right now. So obviously, it'd be like a 1:2. I won't be able to show you guys the output of this, but you'll get the concept, right? The 1490. So this wouldn't work out very well, but you get the concept. I have individual for each screen control up to an extent. And I did this for Spirit Airlines. We did an install. We ended up using Mitti for that installation, and we did it with the video outputs. We did two projectors going out to a wall, one piece of content. There was 19 by 1080. I'm sorry, 3040 by 1200 for the projectors. We split that out into one wall and use these settings to make that work. Reset corners. You can change some of those. Perspective of warp, you can do linear. And then if you have any advanced stuff, you can do width, right? And then power was really for that blend zone. So when you guys have that blend zone and you're trying to do the conversions at 300 pixel overlap, this is the power is where you kind of mess with those settings a little bit to give you that essentially digital blend, not the true blend zone, but a digital blend. So you use power for it. So then you can also do if you go to Mitti, click on preferences, which I know you guys can't see that right now, but you click on preferences. This window pops up here, and here's where you have your rest of your settings. So playlist, and again, click on the cogwheel, right? Different settings here. These are your overall settings. So preference, So playlist, again, CMT, Society of Motion Picture Television Engineers, frame rate. And this is being based off of the monitor I'm using right now. It does 5994. It'll do based off the monitor. This is the primary one is a 720 monitor, which is my side monitor that I'm filling this onto. It's limiting me to this. Start time, fade duration, transition duration. You can change those, which again correlate to this. Fade in and fade out. Sorry, I'll bring that back up. Transition duration, again, you can do dissolves here. So I had a generic dissolve. That's what it comes as default. Non-movie cue duration. I've never used that before. Playlist toggle. You can set these to your default so that every time you turn on your MIDI system, so it's you can buy one license for $300. You get 2 keys. So loop playlist or transition to play selected cue. What'll happen is once this video is done, so let's say just hit play. You go to 10. It'll count out from 10, 8, 7, and it'll go straight to the next one. And I'll show you what that looks like. So you got 3 seconds left. 2, 1, 0, and it goes to the next one. So see the next one's already there. It's already playing. I'm gonna kill that audio. So one of the things when I first got this that I need to learn was pause at end and pause at beginning. If you don't set these markers, it'll just go to the next one. So if I go to pause at end now, and let's say go to the last 10 seconds. 6, 5, 4. Instead of going back to the top now and looping back up there, it's just going to stop there. And 0. So now it stops. So timers or the play wheel, scrub wheel stops. We stopped here because I had set it here. You can set the beginning. Very important to remember these here. It took me a couple of minutes to figure out what was going on and why I couldn't get it to control. Also, if you're trying to do like you do in playback where you create a set and you loop them instead of linking them, you could do, pause it here, do it here, or loop exponentially. For me, honestly, I would just create another file for the loop, play that through, and then come back to a different file. It was always hit or miss, and it could have been operator error. I just found it to be a better method to do it that way. And I'll go back to letting this first one play. And then I'll go ahead and bring back the preferences here real quick. If you guys have any questions, by the way, stop me at any time here. So sorry, did we go through all this already, right? Playlist toggle, cue toggles. And again, anything you set in the project preference, this will be what it opens up to every time you open up the system. So these were all generic. I reset this all to generic or to default. Cue toggles, you can set it how you want. So you can set it to always stop at the first video. You can set always to fade in on the first video or fade out. You can set it to the settings here. It turns into the next cue, to loop, jump actions behavior, load or trigger, and panic behavior, fade out and pause, right? Overlays, cue time location. So again, so we can change at the top, changes up here now. So these are up top here, change back to the bottom, at the bottom here. Again, it's your preference. Cue time size, small. Let's go to large, you can see it. It's now size large down here. And cue time color, black, red, gray. I've only ever used the red feature when I had to give a DSM to a client. I thought it was a very useful feature. It just helps it stand out and pop out for the client real quickly to understand what's what. I always like giving them that visual cue when they ask for a monitor to see something. Time code inputs, MTC sources. So Mitti sends its own out, LTC source. Obviously, you can see these all the things inside my computer. None of those would actually send time code. Input audio channels. I don't have any. And then free will time 10. Again, I haven't used that one, so I'm not really sure. So free will time applies with both MTC and LTC sources. Disabling free will turns on jam sync. NMC in and out. I haven't used this, so I can't really dive into this too much. MIDI controls. I've used a couple MIDI controls myself. I don't have anything plugged in right now, so nothing's going to pop up. OSC, if you're used to that. I've used OSC a couple times on some shows where I have to be wireless and have an OSC controller, turn it on, connect to it. It's already enabled. DMS controls, I've never had to use this for ArtNet. Audio outputs, again, I don't really dive into this stuff. The only time I ever change anything for here is if I'm going from my system to the board, whatever I'm going through. I'll just make sure it's assigned to that, just same thing you're doing in playback. Blackmagic output. So if you want to output to a Blackmagic system, plugged into this guy, you can. This is a feature that came out during the pandemic. NDI output also came out during the pandemic. You just need to enable it and it'll show up at the source. You can NDI to OBS or siphon from OBS into Mitti, so and vice versa. Use of RGBA is to do transparencies. So if you have a video that's a transparent background, something like that, and you want to overlay or anything, you can use that feature. Transcoding, don't have anything for that to show you, sorry. Rendering, blended off, and then miscellaneous. So beta updates, they will let you play with stuff. I never turn it on. Mode and open, standalone, FTC follower SSC. So I always do standalone unless I'm doing 2 of these back to back. Auto start playback on open, auto full screen on open. Again, anything you change from project preference, this will always stay the same when you reopen it. So you change these settings, you save it, and then on your machine, I use Mitti because of the price range as like my oh shit playback software. And also when I build out some of my gear, like this is what I recommend is Mitti. You usually have to tell them about the whole start and stop process. But that's pretty simple. So again, if some of the advanced stuff, click on the cogwheel, input and out. This is where you change your settings here, which are we kind of dove into this a little bit. Miscellaneous information, so you could change the label stuff here. Effects, I don't have any effects built in. Audio, you can turn it on and off. So it's audio on, audio off, fade in, fade out. And then these are generic, loop through, stop it in, stop beginning, play. Go to 10, go to 20, go to 30. We've all used those features before. You can fast forward, rewind, skip. And then hours, minutes, seconds. I mean, this is pretty much it. This is the whole laydown of it. If you go to outputs, go ahead.
For all of those buttons that you were just talking about and showing, are there hotkeys or shortcuts for?
Yeah, there are hotkeys. Everyone is assigned to its own hotkey. I can tell you them verbally because I'm on a different monitor. I can't really show them right now. But yeah, so like if you want to go to the preferences, or let's say you want to load a file, right? So go to file, and I want to add a video still audio cue. You would hit on a Mac Command 1, and that's how you would add a file, or at least it'd open up a window. Yeah, sorry, I'm playing. Let me stop this real quick. So I just hit Command 1, and now my essentially my desktop opened up. And I can find whatever file I was looking for. Same thing.
What did you click on there, Omar? I'm a little distracted by this video.
Sorry,
I'm just kidding.
So,
it was Command 1.
Command 1, yeah. So Command 1 is the key to drop in a video. I'll see if I have anything else in here as a video. Let me just search for .mov. So essentially, this would be your hotkey, right? Let's go to open. And then you can see this one is an overlay. Let's just play through. So Miami Ticker isn't work. Oh, Miami Ticker is a file that we use with a loop. I think this is the file. No, that's not it. Let me see what that is. Anyways, so yeah, Command 1. If I wanted to go to the settings, the preferences, I'd hit Command. Period. Opens up project preferences. And all these have a hotkey. Because we're doing this virtually and you can't really see my keyboard, I was just showing you guys how to do all this with the mouse. But you can get to all these. The more you use this, obviously, the more you learn all the keys. And you can even zoom in on it. You can. My apologies. Sorry, you can zoom in on it. Command up 1, Command up 2, Command up 3. Hide playlists and transports. Show queue types. Yeah, I would say that kind of covers everything that I've done with Mitti. Honestly, just turn on NDI. NDI feature works. You want to go into there, you can go in NDI or go in siphon. Full screen out. So on the output side, hit full screen to take full screen out. On the Windows side, a couple features here, really just for your own generic, what your system's using, what's connected to it. Output, you have, so this is what one is different. When you go to output, you have set up video output, which I showed you, which is this, right? And you can do all these effects and stuff here. On the same output, though, you also have set up audio, which takes you right back to your preferences on audio outputs. So there's no different window for that. But for video, there is a separate one. So really you only have about 3 kind of submenus you need to dive into, which would be this one, video outputs, system preferences, and then this one over here, this cogwheel for your video. These are kind of the 3 main ones you got to dig into. There's nothing more deeper layer that you need to dig into other than these settings, which I like. I like the ease of it because it's very quick and easy to kind of figure things out and troubleshoot. I don't like when there's menus within a menu within a menu within a menu, and I got to go through a bunch of steps to find something. So it makes it very quick and easy. Also, like I can right click. I get some options here. But again, these are options that you would use on the fly, which you can use right here as well by right clicking. So I'm just right clicking here. And again, queue preferences, as I go here, takes me right back to the original cogwheel. I go again, right click over here, enable fade in. It's going to activate this one here. So you would just need to go into here. Unless you want to real quickly turn something on or off. And then your biggest one is clicking on the MIDI icon, clicking on preferences, and going to these settings here. Any questions about any of this stuff?
No questions on social just yet. So if anybody has any questions, get them in to the comments so that we can put them in the queue. But yeah, no, it's super easy to use. And I just checked also, there is a companion instance for MIDI player. So if you're a Stream Deck user and you use companion, at least you've got some options for triggering cues and playback and playlists and stuff. So very, very cool though. Anybody here on the panel have any questions?
It reminds me, a little bit, obviously, I think kind of Qlab light, if you will, as far as, the timeline and lots of different devices. I mean, it certainly attacks some of them, but, I was looking at like comparative pricing, and it looks like Mitti does like a monthly rental, where a Qlab does a daily rental, but that's not like a killer. If you did 30 days of Qlab versus 30 days, which is the $79 for Mitti rental fee, there's no comparison. Qlab is it sounds inexpensive when you look at $10 a day for Qlab, but you add that up, it adds up really, really quickly compared on the rental rates in particular versus the perpetual.
Right. Yeah, and I just pulled it up for the audience too. If you guys want to see what he's talking about, rental license, $79 tax per license. A perpetual license, you own it forever. Activates 2 computers. Activates 2 computers for rental. I mean, for me, it seems like a no-brainer. Just go for the, go all out and get it. I mean, that's me, right? I'm all about the Ed mentality. Buy it now, cry later.
Uh-huh.
Buy once, cry once is what I say.
Buy once, cry once. I'm so sorry, I messed it up.
No, it's
but you know what I was going with.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I actually bought MIDI player last year around Thanksgiving. They did a Black Friday sale, and I was able to get it like a deep discount on it. So they do once in a while do those kind of promotions where you can pick it up pretty inexpensively. And then, I mean, one of the things you mentioned it, Omar, but the NDI output, have you used that at all?
Yeah. So the NDI output, I actually used it. I was helping a client out with it, and they came out with it right around the time we were trying to figure out how to make it work. And it was super easy. We just turned it on. It comes out. It shows up as MIDI, and we did it into OBS. And then that's what I was saying. So if you have the OBS plugin for NDI, it'll show up as MIDI. And then if you want to siphon out of OBS into MIDI, it'll show up in OBS as MIDI. And then as well as Zoom and everything else, once you turn it on and enable it, it shows up as MIDI. So it's very quick and easy to find. It wasn't confusing. I unfortunately only did one. I know I was asked earlier, if they've done multiple, and I've only ever done it from the Mitti to one other place. So whether it does, I'm assuming as long as you can pick it up, right, and the bandwidth can handle it, you can go to multiple locations at the same time. I haven't tried that though, but I know it was asked before we started, so I don't know if anybody has any experience with that at all. But I mean, it's NDI, right? So I don't see why that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I think I had read somewhere that it, I don't want to misspoke. Maybe I'll look it up real quick. But for some reason in my head, I think it can do a couple NDI sources as outputs. I guess you can send a couple videos maybe. But yeah, no, I thought it was pretty, it's pretty intuitive how it works. And it does a whole lot. It's not just, it seems like a good replacement if you're already on Mac-based systems for Playback Pro, because Playback Pro, as I think we were kind of talking about earlier, before, if you were here in the pre-show on Zoom, you had to hear us talking about how Playback Pro is kind of like the one-trick pony. It only is really doing video playback and audio file playback or stills, but it's not doing any of the other stuff. You're not doing blends, for example, with Playback Pro. Playback Pro is only actually a single output program.
You brought up something very, very important that I forgot to mention, and it is not the solution. It is not perfect, but in a pinch, it works out very well. This will also embed audio files. It'll embed JPEGs. It'll embed PDFs and PowerPoints. So if you have a PowerPoint for some reason and you don't have the right, you don't have PowerPoint or you don't need that, it'll take it in as a single image and lay it out for you. You get drag it in, it comes out. It's not, you don't get the animation on stuff. It'll be just like a single still of that brought in multiple times. But if you have videos, stuff like that, and you have a client who's just like, hey, I have all this stuff, and it's a lot of random stuff, and you're already using this as a pinch thing, those are other features you can do on it. You can add the audio cues on there. You can add the videos on there. You can add the PowerPoints on there. Again, it's not, the best solution, but it's an option if it's out there. I've had to do it once ever, and it was kind of like the oh shit moment. I really hope this does it well. And it did. So it was like, thank Jesus it worked. But that's something that like Playback doesn't really do too much, right? Like you can't put a PowerPoint in there or PDF file that opens it all up. So that's a cool little functionality that it has that it does pretty well. And also I will add, when we did the Spirit Airlines thing, that was also based off a PowerPoint, which we did. I did this way later when I found out this ability. But we did that, and they created a PowerPoint essentially with the right sizing for what we needed. And we just said, yeah, drag your PowerPoint into this software, and it'll do everything else for you. And it's how we did a low budget kind of install for a client of a client to get this blended projector up for them in their headquarters. It was just kind of like a plug and play system. This ended up being the easiest one. We originally went like an E2 route and all this other stuff. Oh, sorry, an S3 route with some of the bells and whistles, but it ended up being too complicated, so we dumbed it way down to this. And it was just like, just drag it in here, make sure your PowerPoint is this. When you create your content, drag it into here, press play, and you're good to go.
Another interesting thing is I haven't used Playback Pro a lot, but it doesn't do ArtNet. And I'm finding it interesting that this will actually control ArtNet in DMX as well as the audio and video like everybody else does.
Yeah, so I haven't used ArtNet with Mitti yet. I've used it, honestly, I don't mean to be a traitor to Mitti right now, but Malum, I've seen ArtNet used before, and I did a big show in Vegas with it. And the lighting engineer essentially using ArtNet took over the video guy's console, right, and was playing the flash and trust essentially. So yeah, same concept could be done with this. Have I done it? No. Is it possible? Yes, it does. It's I've seen it has the ability to do it. How to do it, though, would be it'd be another conversation with someone much more intelligent than I am.
Right. It seems like that plays into the the Mitti time code, and being able to coordinate your video playback and your some lighting cues. So it makes sense that it has that ability, and it almost makes it like a media server in some ways. More than just playback software, which Playback Pro would be just playback essentially.
Yeah, for me, the biggest advantage to this, like you're saying, like on the media server, is that it has the ability to do that. Now, not saying that your computer can handle that, but you just put it in a matrix in line with this, and now you're able to send out that to multiple outputs with a Matrox or with a DataPath FX4. It's plug and play, and it's got the ability to do these settings for you, so it makes it very easy. But for me, this kind of extra ability gives you some flexibility, and then the way it does it as well was very, very interesting, because usually when you're doing, I hate to say Miami stuff, but when you're doing Miami stuff, sometimes you're limited by the gear you have, and the power functionality was super powerful because of the fact that I couldn't do anything in the projectors. I could line this up, I could put the grid up and get my estimated 300 pixel overlap, because it wasn't true to what I was doing. But the power made that difference to really give you that curve I needed on both the projectors, and I was able to play with it on each one individually. So I was able to get it really, really lined in really well. And the client was happy with the end product. Obviously I was okay with it, but I wasn't happy with it. But it was enough for that particular show on that night to go off without a hitch. And everybody walked by. I was like, "Oh, this is great," and I was like, "Oh, it could be better." But it worked out, right? And it was just like that, something they wanted to throw in last minute, because we had the projectors there, we had the ability to do it, and we're like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" It'll take us, a couple hours to put it up there and figure it out. And it worked out great.
So we had one question come in from Tim Mann here in Zoom, asking, does the rental work similar to Qlabs with rent to own system?
So I wouldn't know. Again, I've like Ed's mentality. I buy the whole thing and say that'd be.
Yeah, looking at their site, it doesn't look like it is a rent to own as far as I can tell. So it's just a straight 30-day rental if you go that way. So where Qlab, that when you rent to own, once you've rented it X number of times, it becomes yours perpetually from thereafter. So those are different models from what I can tell.
I'll throw in as well, if anyone wants to go to the page, I put it down here a little bit ago. I could throw it down again if we need to. I'll actually look to see if anybody sees that. But in the Mitti's help page, they have a really good good manual that you can read that really gets you up to speed on stuff, and really dives deep into some of these more like NDI and Siphon, and does it very well, because it's not only just verbiage, it's also verbiage with visuals using the software. So if you want to look more into the NDI stuff, you can click on the help section. In the help section, I think it's tips and tricks. I think it's what the NDI falls into. In that section, go to the NDI part of it, and it'll show you a visual of OBS, a visual of playback. Of MIDI and OBS, and show you like, hey, you click here, you'll see this, So you get the verbiage and the visual, so that when you're doing it yourself at home, it's very quick for you to say, okay, I clicked here, oh, I see this, oh, I see it there. So that's very useful, and they do a great job at keeping that up to date. The customer service is really well. I've been able to reach out to them and talk to them within a day or two, get a solution or a fix. So I don't know the team personally, but I'm assuming someone on the team is the actual engineer, and they're able to just pump out those fixes really quickly. They're pretty good in their email list too. If you subscribe to the email chain, they do constant updates, content improvements, and they also have other products, not just MIDI. They have other stuff for audio, of fees. I've never used them. I don't know how good they are. I don't know really where they fall into in the world of AV, but they have other products that I'm assuming are just as good as MIDI. Obviously, that's just what I use and what I'm comfortable with. But yeah, if you guys want to check those out as well, they're there. There's an audio one and there's a Feezer one. I haven't used any of them, so I don't really know too much about them. Other than one's audio, one's something with like OSC controls and things like that. But highly recommend you check it out if you want. I see Robert Schumacher's here. I love MIDI, very easy to use. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, Robert's a great engineer. Angelo, hey Angelo, what's up? Lars Swanson is great, going back to M1 and all NDI. Yes, I think the biggest feature with MIDI that came out that I think is kind of turning people onto it a little bit is the NDI functionality. I'm curious to see how many ports, how many times I can turn on NDI and how many times I can pick it up before there's any kind of degradation. But I can't say for a fact that from your machine to the network NDI on to XYZ, it's going to work, and it's going to look great, because I've tried it. Audio and video is there.
Cool. Sorry, I was just posting some links to the various places so that people can see that full list of products that that they make. Cool. Yeah. Is there anything else you can show us, or anything, maybe any tips or tricks that you found are more useful in the workflow?
So, like I was saying earlier with the system preferences, for me, and actually, you know what? Let's set it up together. So when I go to preferences, and I'll do a shared screen here. Go to desktop. So in here in playlist, sorry, not in playlist, in transcoding. Oh. So you can see some files that were previously transcoded. So this is a mono Winwood, was MOV'd, and probably some flash and trash I did. I'm going to bring these into here. These are probably some old files. Let's see.
And that was just simple drag and drop, right, to get files in?
Yeah, just drag and drop, which is a big functionality it has actually, and I can go through. So that looks like it's just, it says MOV. It's super short, huh? Yeah, okay. And this is just some flash and transfer and event window. Okay. So yeah, we put this on loop real quick, right? And you just loop the entire time. Oh, so look, so I put on loop, but because I said something previously, these are all stopping. So I'm gonna turn this off and hit play again. And now it's looping through. This will really trip up some people, and it's one of the only things that I think Playback does better. And again, this becomes an operator issue. If you don't click these on and off so that it plays correctly for you and how you want things to play out, you might get a file that plays right after another one that you don't want to because you have to stop for a PowerPoint or transition somewhere else, and that could be a problem. But if you get this run setting or not, I recommend you go to the preferences, go through them to what you like for your comfortability or what you like to do on how you set it up. Because whatever you say change here, this is like your master. But yeah, I could show you. I don't really, yeah, honestly, the only advice I could give is really checking these settings here. Every time you upload these, playing it through. I've almost never had Mitti crash on me. It is software, so it does crash. But I've only had it maybe, man, I gotta say a handful of times, to be honest, just to be safe, a handful of times. Not a whole lot. I've been pretty safe about a lot of things. Whoops. Sorry, I don't have rights to that guy. But yeah, that's really the biggest thing is that one, when you do that tab section, I don't know if you guys ran into that edit on the show you guys did, but it's really because an operator is like really making sure that when that video is supposed to stop, it stops and doesn't go to the next one, because that is by default the way the program is. It'll just play. You need to be able to upload it. Okay, this one stops here, or these two videos play together, or XYZ. I will say another caveat to it. The start and stop time in that sub window isn't as easy to use as it would in Playback. You just drag the scrub wheel, say, okay, start here, end here. You still have those abilities, start and stop times, but you have to do it by the numbers. So you have to be a little more precise, where with Playback, you get a little more flexibility by just scrubbing it or moving it around. Not so much in Mitti. So that's kind of like, again, an operator thing where you got to retrain your brain on that a little bit. If you go back to the queue preferences in here is where you get the in and out points. And here, let me just go through this a little bit more. Screen share.
I mean, obviously you can probably just drag and drop the sequence of them, if you want to move around, which,
yeah, so I can totally do that. Yep, I could do that right there. So I just moved it around. That's still easy to do. And then you can, once you feel comfortable, you can shrink all these down. if you're set to go, and then just next. Another thing that I will say, again, operator kind of necessity. So yeah, so you have to double click on these files. Like this is a single click I'm doing. You see how it's just highlighting it, but it's not activating it. You need to double click. And again, that's why I say there's a lot of operator error that happens with this. So single click highlights it, double click selects it.
And then it looks like it auto plays when you double click.
Correct. If you double click, it'll autoplay to that particular one.
Can you press the space bar once it's selected, but don't double click?
Yeah, you can. Once it's selected, you can hit the space bar to stop it. Yep, just like playback.
Yeah.
Enter doesn't do anything. Enter only starts it, but doesn't stop it. So I'm hitting spacebar right now. Spacebar to start it. Hitting spacebar again, stops. Hit enter now. Enter starts it. Enter again. Enter doesn't do anything else. Just starts it.
Now does escape stop it if it's playing?
Let's see. Escape. Escape does not do anything.
Okay.
So another cue that's not really there. And again, I hate to say that word, but it comes down to the operator knowing this piece of program to not, if he's used to one way, gotta think of things a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's just like anything. Gotta get used to it. And one thing
Right.
that is nice is it does look like they offer a demo where you can try before you end up buying it. So that's a nice thing that you can get a little familiar with the UI and see if it makes sense for you.
So you can download the demo. If memory serves right, the demo was 20 minutes full product. I don't know if you can output though. I want to say you couldn't output and there's only 20 minutes and then it would shut down. But you could do whatever you want for those 20 minutes and it'll let you play around with it and do whatever you got to do. I want to say you can output, or if you did, it did a watermark on it. I do know there's a timer, and I'm really set on that 20-minute mark. I know there's a timer, and I want to say you can output, and if you did, it was with a watermark. So,
Gotcha. It's still very cool though. Sorry about that. Any other comments here in the panel? We don't have anything on social at the moment, so make sure you get your questions and comments in if you have anything, or if you've got a tip or a trick that if you're a MIDI user, tell us what we're missing out, what we should dive in and look at in the menus and preferences, and tell us what we should look for, because love to hear it. We're all here to learn, I think. So, yeah, my experience with it was just, it was just super easy. We were able to, load files in and it just kind of worked. It wasn't, nothing too tricky. This was also a couple of years ago, so it's definitely, there's been a few releases since then. But what is the current version? Do we know? I think it was.
So the version that I have, I just updated before we started the show today, was 1.5.16. And they have a changelog. If anybody wants to nerd out about the changelog, there's a changelog in the help section. I'm sure I can find it real quick, but so if you go to the page, there's products, footage, help, blog, and contacts. If you click on help real quick, the first thing that pops up is a contact us section, and then it has the products, MIDI, Visor, and Goji. I hope I'm saying that right. Go to MIDI help. So I know there's a changelog somewhere, but apparently it's not where I thought it was. QC plugin manager, nope. In the emails, they have a changelog, because I always see when they send out emails. Public betas, here we go, changelog. So in the help section at the bottom is changelogs. So if you want to nerd out and dive into that a little bit, there's a bunch of changelogs in here. Fixes, what's new. So let's see. So for 1.5.16, crash on important video files when the selected audio output is disconnected. Video is black and not playable if drag and drop edit from Finder in certain circumstances. OC query address space does not update after removing cues. So that was some of the fixes they did in 1.5.16, which was about 2 months in between the last update, which is 1.5.15.
Cool. Sorry. We do have another question here from Tim Mann. Let me just move it over here so I can read it. Is there a way to jump to time in a video similar to what Qlabs active queue window? So can you, when you're already in a video, can you jump to a specific point in the video?
Not that I'm aware of. I will admit to that. Not that I'm aware of. And I know Playback makes that very easy. Qlabs makes it very easy. Mitti, not so much. At least not that I'm aware of. Yeah. I don't know.
You were doing it. I think you were doing it before at the bottom of the, right at the bottom left of the
no,
screen.
that was a fade. Fade.
Oh, that was just fades. Okay.
Yep.
There's no progress bar that you can drag or anything.
No.
You just have the jump to times with the 30, 20, and 10.
Yep.
So you can't set cue points or anything like that either.
No, so if you select a here, I'll show you what I'm doing right now. So if I select the video, right? So let's say I go to this one. It's highlighted here and hit play. I lose all control of this video, right? I can't click on anything. I'm clicking right now, nothing's happening. So if I stop it, this comes up. And I can see the timer here as it moves around. And then from there, hit play to start from there. Which isn't a really good solution, but that is something. You could make multiple, for a workaround, if I need to have that ability, I would just make multiple files, create in point, out points multiple times. But for on the fly, that doesn't look like there's a good solution for that.
Got it. And what about when the cogwheel, when you hit the cogwheel for the particular video, can you, you can't drop markers or anything, right?
When you hit the cogwheel, let's see. I don't think so. So if I go back to this video, hit the cogwheel, in and out points. So let's say I want to start at 7. So in at 7. And out, let's say at 8.
And what is that? That's in minutes.
Yeah, so this whole video is an hour, 1 hour and 52 minutes and 1 hour 52 minutes, 58 seconds, 23 milliseconds, whatever. So now if I start this, still wasn't enough. So I'll go ahead and stop that. So we should have started around here actually, in point. It's 7. Oh, here we go. Sorry, that was my mistake. So minutes 7. 0. So again, awkward error already. All right, and then we'll go to the next one. Come right back. No, it still didn't start there. So it's saying I did it here. I can reset it. Let me see something. 10. Oh, that was my, again. All right, so I wasn't hitting enter. I was putting the number in and not hitting enter. And I'm gonna go a little back because after her becomes the artist that comes out. Do 7, hit enter. Now it starts there. Again, I just want to make sure. Yep, so now we're starting at 7. One more time. Yep, starting my video. Started there, and let's say we did 7 to, and we did out time here at 8, hit enter. And now my timeline should be much faster. Yep.
Right, and if you go to the last 10, we should see that it's, yeah. And the durations in the red boxes, we can see that.
Correct. So one more second and it stops. So again, I didn't put end video here, so it jumped to the next one. Again, operator error. If I was on a show, that would have gone to something else with music. You know, hopefully the audio guy doesn't miss the cue and mutes himself, which he shouldn't have to do because we should be doing it. But this to me is the biggest. You got to make sure you're doing this piece right here for when you're using MIDI. All right, sorry, that's a lot. So, and then I go ahead and reset these. And now we're back to the full time. We're going to 30. Yep. And then again, I don't have control after I played it out.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate part of that. But now the other thing, so if you have a video playing, you can like look at this system the cogwheel preferences for the video. That's the next one, for example. If you realize, oh, you know what, I need to set my in point for the next video, you can do that while something else is playing.
So two things that you bring to mind. Yes to your answer, 100% you can do that. One thing you can't do, which you can't do in other programs, is I can't preview that video while something else is playing. It just takes over the program output. So that is, I guess, another drawback. Assuming in a perfect scenario, right, you had the time to get that content, ingest it, play it through, watch it, test the audio with the audio engineer, that shouldn't be an issue. If not, tell them to mute, play it, watch it yourself, make sure the audio is there, and then play it out to the world when you're ready, because there is no real functionality for that. This little button down here, you see my arrow? Oh, you're not. I'm sorry.
You're not
Stop
sharing.
screen share. Of course I'm not. So this is always your program out. This little window here will be your preview window. I can't, I'm clicking on it, nothing's really happening. I can't see anything. I just get that little thumbnail as a visual, tell me like what's there. But if you click on this button here, and you can't see it on mine, but it takes over, everything that's an output gets taken over. And I wish I could, I don't know if, I'm sure you can't see it, but so if you're a projectionist or you're seeing video stuff, imagine a grid box. And within that grid box, there's a circle, right? And in that circle is the MIDI logo, the resolution for that monitor itself that it's looking at right now. So I'm outputting to essentially two computers. One is seeing 3400 by 900. One is seeing 1440 by 900. And this is my playback machine. That is telling me this is projector 1 or monitor 1, monitor 2. And then on top of that, on the sides, for when you're doing blending and curves like that, there is a half circle in the corners. And then there's a grid, which is 34 by 34 here, it looks like. And then in the middle lines, the center points, and the round part, it's, I would say, different pixel count. So let's say the whole thing itself is like, 2 pixels, and then the box around it and the center lines or center points, or let's say 4 pixels. It's white with a gray background, which is really good contrasting for your eyes when you look at these for a long time. But what's great about that is when you're trying to line these together with projectors, having that center point and having those half circles so they line up, it makes a full half moon, right? Is a really good visual cue for you when you're doing these. And the fact that it does it tells you, what you're looking at, what the resolution is, gives you that circle to get a proper aspect ratio. So you're not too skewed out, you're not too stretched out. If you're overshooting something or blowing it out, it'll show you it to you. So like this circle and this one looks great, 1920 by 1080. The 3200 by 900. Everything looks the circle looks good. It's blown out, obviously. And all my squares are horizontal. They're rectangles. So they're rectangles like this instead of being squares. So instantly I know something's wrong with this machine. I got to fix this one to make it look like this one. And then obviously the first thing would be like, okay, these resolutions are way off. We need to match them. We're getting them closer together. And again, this little button down here is what you'd be clicking to get that feature. So that's a really cool functionality that I like about MIDI too, that when it outputs at first, before you send anything out full screen, it sends you out this test pattern so you can really dive into those nitty gritty stuff. And, me as a projectionist, that's kind of what I got to look at all day. And having that contrast between the gray and the whites and those kind of like pixel differences makes, for me, is a huge difference. A pro tip for anybody who does projection is if you're doing blends, change your colors on the projectors to do 2 different colors. So that way, when you're further back and you know, the pixel lines are not as accurate as they could be because you're, you know, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet back. You'll see, let's say you do green and red, those 2 colors converge to make a different color. That'll be your sign that your math or you've converged correctly. Same thing you're doing blends. You do you know, red on one side, green on the other side, and blue on the other side. You'll use your converge points. Sorry, I'll make this smaller. But you use your points when you come together. Those different colors make a different color, and that's how you know you're aligned. It's just real quick ways to really get you tune it in quickly, and as well just for your eyes, not to always see that constant white on black. It's very hard on your eyes, and a lot of guys will get. I myself had it happen, but your eyes starts to they have a hard time to focus after a while. So you got to look away for a little bit or close your eyes for a little bit. Changing the colors out really helps instead of that white and black, having red, green, and blue, or red, green, and yellow. Green's very good for your eyes to focus on. Blue's a little bit harder to do it, so I don't always recommend doing blue unless it's a big wall. But those are some pro tips you guys can use. But the gray on white really helps out. You can look at it a little bit longer. It comes with a great test pattern, so you know what's coming out of your system automatically. You know the information you want to know real quickly as your projections to make sure that you're lining things up properly. I know it's a little bit off base of what we're talking about here with Mitti, but I figured I'd give it out there while we were on the topic.
So I got a quick question for you, Omar. You know how you were just talking at the bottom left corner of the screen, that that button that kind of lets you know what your displays are?
Yeah.
Is there a hotkey for that you know of?
That's a good question. I don't know. Here, give me a second. I'm going to look at the settings here real quick. So on my output side, to go full screen, which is Command F. Yeah. So if I go full screen, hit Command F, it'll show me those boxes. And again, if anybody wants like a visual, I could draw something out for you guys in a couple of seconds if you kind of need a better visual. I wouldn't be the best visual in the world, but it'd be something so you can see it.
No, what was useful for that is I opened my MIDI player on my Mac and I pressed that button and then I couldn't undo it.
Oh, so Command F, yeah. And escape didn't work?
No, escape didn't work. So, yeah, that was interesting. I only have one monitor hooked up to that Mac right now, so the whole monitor just was black, and then.
So important tip number 2, Command F is how you get out of full screen.
There we go. I did look at the bottom right of the screen. There's those 2 little buttons.
Yes, I can show you those as well. So again, if you hit, now I've got just a little cue to cue I can create for myself, right? So when I've had to do some audio stuff, since I don't have anything to do audio, I typically do something like this. I'll throw my audio files in there. I'll do like this so I can just see it real quickly and just take my cues as I go. They play through. I make sure everything's routed. It's a very quick and easy way to see it. Takes me back to full screen. Whoops. And vice versa. So full screen here. So let's say you're doing some kind of generic loop on a monitor somewhere. You can just put this up there, put it on the monitor signal screen, play it out. There's always some of those, installs you got to do somewhere. Or you got to be in, like, I got to plug this computer somewhere else so I can't get to it. And then I got to put it up on the screen so I can see it. So just a way to kind of work around with that. And that's it. And then even in here, you can still hit, if you're doing the video stuff, Command F, all my outputs just got taken over. Command F again, and I'm out of that window. Anything else on this one you guys want to dive into, on any settings I've gone past or ran through, or you want to see clicked on?
Yeah, I can't think of anything in particular. So with the NDI outputs, actually, I was going to ask, I know, we get so many questions all the time about NDI, and people seem to, right now be very interested in it. Does it only take whatever the native resolution of the video, or do you have any settings that you can change that output resolution? Or can you change the overall output resolution so like it scales any of your videos to be a certain
That's
size?
a good question. I don't know if it does it automatically. I've never had to do it for me automatic. I've always had to do it manually. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a way to do that, to be honest. Maybe I just haven't dove into it enough. I was gonna try to see if right now, sorry. If you go to, again, in the MIDI file, you hit File or Command 4, right? Command 4 or File, add NDIQ. This is what pops up over here. NDI pops up here. Click on this, right? Looking for a source, which I don't have. I'm going to turn on my computer, which is going to cause, I'm sure, some kind of problem. But I'm going to turn on NDI. NDI
So wait, that's bringing in an NDI source, or?
So yeah, you can send in and send out. Well, yeah, so you can send in NDI or send out NDI to me with MIDI.
So I was thinking more on the output side. Can you tell it, hey, I want you to be, 1080, or I want you to be 720?
Yeah, I'm looking at their documentation, and it says the dimension of NDI output, the width and height of the output will always match with the dimensions of the source material.
Source material. Okay.
So I did. I'm on a MacBook Pro. I did NDI scan converter. Whoops! Did I just kill it? Scan converter, and it's selected on all my monitors that I'm using right now. So this is the ultra wide monitor, the 720 monitor, the MacBook Pro monitor, all centered on one display. And it was as simple as just when the highlight was there. Well, let's see, I'm going to preface now. Changing that to look at my computer's.
Right, which is how NDI kind of works on Mac when you use the scan converter, or as they still call it. It takes all of your displays and puts them on one raster.
Right. So now I've brought in an NDI source, and it automatically detected my MacBook Pro.
Cool. Very cool. And the output is full NDI, right? It's not like an HX.
Output is full NDI, correct.
Because that's where it could be useful, if you wanted to do playback with a secondary machine, but bring it into something like vMix, or where I could see this being useful on hybrid events, actually, is outputting, with an HDMI out, but then also outputting an NDI out if you have like a separate vMix machine that's doing the streaming side of a hybrid event. So you don't necessarily have to capture, use an HDMI splitter and then bring in a live capture. You could be sending out both, HDMI from your Mac into your in-room hardware switcher, but then send NDI out to your Vision mixer that's doing the stream with whatever, vMix or Wirecast or OBS, whatever software you're using for that. Right. So that seems pretty cool that it'll do both.
Yeah, I think that's why I was looking at it, was because it had that ability to do both. Because we did have an in-room projection that we had to do for the shows, and then it had to go out to the stream as well. So, I believe that's why I was looking at it.
Yeah, that was part of why I picked it up, was I was figuring, oh great, I'll be able to use this for both those things. And when I first bought it last year, I wasn't doing as much NDI, but I saw that it was going to be, I was moving that direction. I wasn't using vMix very much at that point, as I am now. So I was kind of foreshadowing into the future of, using a hardware, it's still software, but using my Mac as a playback source, and not just playing everything back within vMix or OBS. And I was using OBS a lot more when I bought it. So that made sense. But yeah, no, great points, Chris. Yeah, I think that's a good workflow for as we start moving back into ballrooms, and maybe we don't want to only use Playback Pro for something like that. And Qlab doesn't natively do NDI. You can use NDI siphon, but it does, you then have to still send it out. So it's a different process. So it's nice that it's kind of an all-in-one solution. Yeah. Anything else, Omar, that you want to share? We've got about 45 minutes left in the day.
Good luck.
Yeah, so I got to admit, Mitti's always been on our radar. It's always been on the back burner because I couldn't figure out a way to make it 2 hours. Now, we've also done a video on playback, and that was an hour long, right? And we did a deep dive into that. I feel like Mitti's just it's a simple program. It doesn't take very much to learn. It's not very difficult. The biggest, words of advice, right? Command F now for if you take a full screen on accident and you can't get out of that. And operator error. Like Mitti is a very stable program, but you need to know to stop the video, to let it run through. Those little cues that you're not used to from other programs are very important for Mitti, and there's no kind of workaround for that other than the operator knowing when and when not to hit those buttons, turn them on. So again, if you go to the preference side, you could have it so it always turns on that way. So it's just more you got to remember when to turn it off to continue. When it comes to looping, multiple ones, right? So you do start here, go here, and then loop to the top. I have never successfully done that very well. So what I've done is created a separate file of just the looped videos, play that through, close that, open up my other file. Usually I have enough time for that. I would say playback's a little bit better than that. Apples to apples, cost-wise, for Mitti versus playback is a big difference. Plus, you get 2 keys versus just one. It's downloadable instantly. You go there, you download it, you download the software, pay for it, you get a key, activate it, boom, you're there, and that can go on 2 of your machines instantly. Mitti versus Qlabs, I mean, that's a kind of different territory there. You're talking about the baby version maybe versus the big boy. Qlabs can do so much more than this does. This has some workarounds that are similar, but it's not the same deal, and it's not as versatile, right? But again, price point versus what you're doing. I got a lot of respect for Mitti though. They're a good product. It works. It does what you need to do. It does things outside of the box that other playbacks don't do. So it's a little bit more versatile. It's a little bit more user friendly. But again, as an operator, you got to remember some of those cues, or else you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. If you it's on, as a video engineer, it's on you to really make sure that the video plays, stops when it's supposed to stop, audio doesn't bleed through. It's not on the roll of that. Some of the downsides, like we said, but there's workarounds, right? So like we don't have full control of the timeline. There's ways to control the timeline, but I don't have full control of that. But I need to have some functionality, like a I wouldn't say advanced user thing, but on playback, you can kind of manipulate files and edit stuff, right, to put things together. So like take a piece here, cut, and then you kind of put them in line together, and it makes this file for you. That file now becomes like your edited video, possible with Mitti, not the exact same thing, but possible. And then, again, a different workflow, a different way to do it, a little more time consuming, I'd say, than Mitti or than playback. But you can do it here. What else? I mean, what else can we nitpick at here? Mitti versus playback. Who's a playback user here who's got some things about that they can say right now that, well, playback does this really well. Mitti sounds like it doesn't. Is there an apples to apples on this we could talk about real quick, or is there just it doesn't do it at all?
So, you brought up a good point that you get 2 licenses when you use with Mitti, and have you done or have you tried networking 2 machines for a live backup?
Yes, I've networked to 2 machines for live backup.
Well, and was that because we do that with Playback Pro often, and we'll network 2 machines so that they fire in sync. So yeah, that's cool that Mitti also does that. Is that just a simple network? What was the process for that? So
what I think we ended up doing was 2 machines with OSC on, and then we had a third party app with OSC controlling, essentially queuing them at the same time. But I still had to upload files independently, had to get the orders independently done, and it just kind of triggered the files. So it wasn't it wasn't as, in my mind at this moment, it wasn't, from what I recall, as good as the playback version, right? With the, I can't think of the name right now. Networks. No, what's it called? What's it called? It's a third party app that they have. Anyways, playback has a
companion.
No. Playback has its own version. That they talk to each other.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't think of the name right now, but Playback has its own version you download and they talk to each other. But again, you still have to upload the files independently. I will say AV Playback though has a true sync backup. So you network them together, and AV Playback will go from primary and upload and organize backup. So there's a true redundancy and a true, like, I change this here, my backup gets changed automatically.
Now that's you said that's AV Playback, not Playback Pro.
Correct. AV Playback, which is PC based, different program. There's like 3 flavors of that one, and I've had a whole idea for this whole playback. We could have done a whole thing on this, but there's like 4 or 6 kind of real players in this world. The 3 top boys are AV Playback, Playback Pro, Mitti. Qlabs for me gets into like the media server realm. Resum is like the media server realm. Malumum is like that media server realm. So like they do these functionalities, but I don't think they're meant for this. Like, yes, they play video. Yes, you can do it on there, but they do so many more things that, like, just to call it a playback is kind of beneath what it does, right? But there are main players for the playback world. Coyote is another one. It's we got coming up right now. Coyote's kind of taking playback to, I think, what needs to happen, right? Because right now we're getting to those LED walls where there's 2K, 4K, 6K, 8K pixel counts, and my machine has to play this video that's 8K or 4K, has to send us out, and that's becoming more and more the norm. And now when you're doing these hybrid events, I need to be able to send out multiple channels at once. So, do I have to set up for my playback multiple channels, or can I use MIDI and just turn on NDI and that sends it out to where I need to go? Easy and simple. Those are questions I think will come up down the road and really determine who stays in the game and who doesn't. Playback Pro did an update a few months ago. I was a long time user of them. Phenomenal stuff with them. I know them really, really well. They came with an update that plays very, very well with the M1 chips, and it's been pretty stable. It's pretty rock solid. I haven't seen any issues with it so far. I haven't used it a whole lot either, but the couple times I did use it with the update, it was great. It still had a little, hiccups here and there like everything else, but it works really well with the M1 chip. The processing was much smoother. It was cleaner interface. Well, same interface, just, cleaner, sleeker look to the same user interface. I find Mitti to be very simple to look at, but I don't know. I mean, is there a comparison we want to talk about between other programs and this one to see what it can and can't do, or what would be the workaround for this?
And sorry, I just found it. Playback Pro's sync system is called Simple Sync.
Simple Sync, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And there's 3 ways to do it with Simple Sync. And I can't remember them either, but there's 3 ways to do it with Simple Sync. And there's, it's an A to B talk. And so here's my problem with Simple Sync, right? And not to bash on anything. Playback Pro is a great program. Simple Sync works really well. You have the controller with it. It works great. Now, in a perfect world, I should have all my content ahead of time. It should be all uploaded. And all I'm doing is hitting next or take or, whatever. Never like that, though. All right. Or 99% of the time, it's not like that. And you get videos on the fly. So what happens with Simple Sync is if you are not highlighted on Simple Sync itself, which is, again, an app that's outside of playback, if that isn't highlighted when you hit the queue, nothing happens. Because now, or usually what ends up happening is only one plays and the backup doesn't play, because now you've only triggered the one that you were just working on for XYZ reasoning, right? And that, again, that's not to say Simple Sync didn't do its job. It's you as the operator didn't go back and click on Simple Sync to make sure that it triggered both of those at the same time. So now you're hitting one and then you got a delay on the other one because it didn't work. Simple Sync didn't fail. You did something and you activated or highlighted the other window, essentially, a different window than Simple Sync. So now Simple Sync has turned off, so you can do what you got to do, because maybe you needed to play the one video on the one only because you had a problem with this backup, right? So Simple Sync isn't failing. It's an operator who didn't click back on the Simple Sync to turn it on. And that's happened to a lot of people. And it's a thing you got to know about, right? But I know there's 3 ways to do it. Usually, honestly, the easiest way is to just do Simple Sync on, go computer to computer with an Ethernet cable, and just have them talk to each other. And it's plug and play, DHCP plug and play. They make it very simple, but you just got to remember when symbol sync is on to have that activated before you hit the enter key for that section for it to work. If not, you're just gonna play one at a time, and it's happened to it happens to the best of us. So again, it's an operator issue.
Yeah, it has to be in focus and activated. Yeah, that's one of the kind of hassles. So, but it sounds like with Mitti, the way you've done it was using, network commands to trigger to two different machines. So
yeah, so we did. Actually, it was really cool. So we did 2 computers across a bridge, Wi-Fi them point to point with these little satellite things to connect them, and then we had an OC on an iPad that triggered our queues for us on both machines. And essentially, one was being used for one side, and one was being used for the other side, and then through OC to the Wi-Fi switcher, kind of all in one system. We connected to that, and then through OSC, I forget like an OSC program for the Apple. We just connected to that. It showed up. We controlled it, and both of them took commands at the same time. It was flawless.
right, like something like Touch OSC would do that, or
Yeah, Touch OSC. Yeah, super simple.
cool. Or like I just found that Companion has a module. So if you programmed a button and had the 2 IP addresses and created 2 instances, you'd be able to send commands to both. So,
Boom, there you go.
super simple. So cool. I'm not seeing any more questions on social. So if anybody who is still out there wants to ask a question or has a comment, we can get those in now, because we will wrap up in the next about a half hour or so. Same thing here on Zoom. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A and we will get it into the queue so that we can chat about it. If there's no other questions here at the moment too, we also could take a minute, Omar, to talk about, next week. Well, that's actually, next week, I guess we consider Sunday, start of a week. We have something big coming up this, on the 18th.
So, man, that's so it's so close. So 18, 19, 20 is the summit. If you guys haven't signed up for that, recommend it. We got permission to do the announcement, and unfortunately, I haven't done it. But Tyler Mann from Evolve Group will be one of our keynote speakers. So he finally gave us like the go ahead to talk about it. So that was great. We had to do some shuffling around for the summit as far as some of the speakers go, just with timing and stuff. So some of that has changed. If you guys have been looking at it or watching it, some of the timing has changed for some of the speakers, but we're still good to go. 18, 19, 20, they're about, 5 hour long sessions?
I think 4 hours a day or so, 4 to 5 hours. Plus, if you count, like, we're going to have social events afterwards, networking events. So lots of chances and opportunities to chat with people in the community. We also have recruiters who are going to be attending each of the days that you can meet with and, talk about your skills. And they represent different regions of the country, of the U.S. Sorry, we were only able to get U.S. Recruiters. We don't have such a global reach that we could have covered the entire world, but we do have some recruiters who will be there, labor coordinators who can talk to you about getting you on jobs and what skills you have for all the work that's coming up. There is so much work right now that companies are looking for techs. So this would be a great opportunity to get your name and your face in front of some people who can potentially hire you on freelance jobs. So those are some great opportunities that Omar was able to set up. And yeah, we got tons of great content. So if you want to, Omar, do you have the link handy? I was just looking for it.
Yep. Sorry, I could post that in 2 seconds.
Yeah, we want to make sure that there's still a chance for you to pick up tickets. And then if you click on all the speakers, our speakers are also have links that can offer some discounts. So reach out to the presenters and talk to them, and you might be able to pick up a ticket a little bit cheaper. But it's gonna be a great event, 3 days long, tons of great info. Jeff Keithley is going to be presenting. Jeff Woodgren, who's here tonight, will be presenting. Trying to remember everybody else. We have so many presenters talking about such a wide range of AV topics. But once Omar gets that link, you'll be able to see everybody who's presenting. I think the schedule is up to date at this point, so you can see what sessions we're having, and you'll be able to, again, register, get your tickets, and again, to reach out to the presenters directly, and they'll be able to give you a link where you can get a little bit of a discount. So that's always a nice thing, as well. As we know, this year has been a tough one, so try to help out where we can. Good. I see Omar posted that link in the Facebook and here in the Zoom and on YouTube. So everybody has the link now. Make sure you head on over there, get your tickets, register, check out what speakers there are, and see what sessions you're looking to take a look at. There's gonna be tons of content, and we're focused mostly on streaming for this first annual AV Tech Talk Summit. Should be pretty cool. Omar, you got anything else to say about it?
Yeah. So if you guys haven't already looked at it, sorry, I'm just seeing there's some broken stuff here. But anyways, so Jeff Keesley will be there, Jay Clark will be there, Clem Howell, Kevin Ring, Jeff Woodgren is here with us tonight. Thank you for always being here. Shakreem will be there, Justin Herminghouse, and then our mystery opening and closer is actually Tyler Main and Gregory, and they will both be they'll be there answering Q&A stuff. So one will be on the kind of future of the industry, the current state of it, and the other one's a really powerful story about I don't want to give too much away, but
yeah,
he went through a very serious medical issue. Well, I'll say that, right? Serious medical issue is appropriate for this. He went through a serious medical issue. Got better, was a major player in the world of projection and video when it comes to the music world, right? So all those concerts you guys should see, and not even concerts, I'm sorry, music awards and VH1 awards and TV music awards, all those award shows you saw, he was kind of like go-to guy for that. He suffered a very, very major medical trauma, kind of got laid out for a while. Went through a recovery process for a while, stayed very active within the social community, was very active on LinkedIn, was very active with his peers and everything. He's out of California. He kind of gets better, right? He's ready to go back to work, and then COVID hits. So now he's been out of work, he's been recovering, and now he has a new challenge, right? And at this new challenge, he's having to deal with another issue. And then above all else, he comes back into the AV industry. And his story is super powerful of how he endures this, and how instead of not going another route because of what happened, he stayed doing his passion. And honestly, I'm not doing it any justice. I'm just, kind of giving what I can without giving too much here. But it's a powerful story. I think you guys will really, really enjoy listening to it. It really
very inspirational.
Super inspirational. And it's one of those things you just got to listen to.
Yep.
Because if for the guys who it's hard to keep that story in the rest, because so many of our friends have kind of, shifted industries and changed careers, and to hear his story and to be like, did you really have it that bad? Did you really not, did you really struggle that much? It's just, it's a different perspective. And we thought it'd be great to close out the talk and really just kind of, open people's minds to like, yeah, we went through some stuff, but some of us went through even more. And we need to sometimes realize that in our day-to-day lives that, sometimes we're not suffering as much as we think we are.
And yeah, being grateful for what we have, but it's a great accomplishment story, an overcoming story. So it'll be very, like I said, very inspirational, and we think you guys will enjoy that. Something else I think you guys are going to really enjoy is the perks. So if you head over to the link we put in the chats, check out the perks tab. There's going to be some giveaways. And everybody who registers gets entered for the giveaway. So there's nothing extra you have to do, no other sort of thing. It really no work on your end. You just get entered, and then you could walk away with one of a handful of prizes. So it's going to be really cool. We got Omar really got a bunch of cool stuff. I don't know if you want to talk about any of the things.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
got.
I'll talk about two things, right? So the prizes that we're giving out are more than the ticket it's worth. So one of them will be like an Amazon Basic large case, which I don't have with me, but it's a Pelican case, comes already with foam inside of it and like that. The measurements are about, I can look at that real quick. Let me see, 21.9 by
just to be
13.
clear, it's like a Pelican case. It's an Amazon Basics case, but not
very similar to Pelican case. Yeah, it's big. It's big
Yeah.
in South Florida. Sorry, guys, Miami down here. Very similar. It's robust. I travel a lot with my own case. I'll have some pictures of it for you guys tomorrow to check out. But yeah, this is a case. It's really good. Literally just getting in get you as part of that category. Prize giveaway. You sign for tickets and you get that. Another one is the NBA HX, which I do actually have sitting out here in front of me. So if you guys know what one of these are, we've done a class on these in the past. These are great little scalers. If you're using Image Pro or Screen Pro, these guys do a phenomenal job of scaling content for you. They're a four HDMI outputs, one HDMI in, HDSDI, HDMI in, HDMI out. You can actually do outputs so that they're all active with scalar mode, or you can do individual pass-throughs. Super good box. Literally getting in there, get you one of these. We're also giving away the Video 360, which we just did a thing about a couple of days ago. This is a camera with artificial intelligence. If you guys were here, and we didn't remember what episode it was. It was a couple episodes ago. We got a little demo of this. Literally, Dan was in a room. He stood up, walked around, and the camera tracked him perfectly about maybe a little bit wider than breast shot. But just he walked around and tracked him perfectly. 4K sensor inside of this, USB based, plug and play with all your software stuff. Great little product to give out to you guys. And then another one we're going to give out is, if you guys saw a few weeks ago, we did a class on the Atomos recorders. We're also giving one of those away. And those were great little devices that were really, really useful. And actually, surprisingly, the very next show that I did had one of those, and I had to use it as a program record. So I was super ready for it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I totally know how to use this thing. And I got up and running. We'll be giving one of those out, modern devices. And then just for going to the event itself, all right? The team at AV has created a streaming guide for you guys. And this goes into things about audio, video, streaming possibilities. It's a little ebook that we've created for you guys to really just help you kind of have like a little cheat sheet in your back pocket. It's about 30, 40 pages. But that guide is 100% for you. We've got interpretations from Leland, from Clem. I've also put little 2 bits of their sense in there about some of the history of streaming and some of the motivational things about streaming. But they are there for you. And also, if you register for some of the talks, you can get a Projection 101 audio, the Career Projection 101 audio book. It's a book by Clem Harold, who's an author, also one of the speakers on the show. He's also offering up one of his books, which is about the AV industry and how to make AV as a career, and kind of this path or this guide from stagehand to engineer, and how to form your business, how to do your taxes, how to do your write-ups, the things to think about, even all the way to retirement and what you do with things like that. So one book you get just for joining, you get that book automatically. It's free to you for being a part of it with us. It was created by the AV team. Ed, me, Chris, and Disa have been working on this for a few weeks now, putting it together for you guys. And again, it's got resources for all the things that you kind of heard about here and there, all organized in one little visually appealing little booklet that you guys can kind of dive into and have as a cheat sheet for yourselves to really stay abreast of what's out there. And, if anything just pops up and, hey, I want to do a poll, or I want to do audio for this, or I want to do, I want to feed video here. It's like, well, this options aren't working. Take out that little ebook, go through video. Here's this, quick little description of it, what it's called, the little image. So very quick little reference guide for that. And that's just for joining. And those are perfect to give out. Streaming guide is for everybody who joins. And then the audiobook is done by, if you watch Clem's one particularly, you enter for that. The Atomos, the MDHX, the Amazon, and the camera are all giveaways, one-time giveaways for select individuals. So and literally the tickets are less than what any one of these things cost individually.
Right. So, and as I mentioned, if you reach out to the speakers, they can get you a code where you can get an even deeper discount. So there's really no losing on this for anybody. So Very excited. And that's coming up starting this coming Sunday, which would be the 18th of July, 18th, 19th, and 20th. 3 days. It'll be a ton of information, and we hope you guys join us, especially for the networking. I think the chats afterwards, the hangs, are going to be super great to just kick back and meet some people and get to chat. Another way you can also chat between episodes is by joining our Discord. So I'm going to put the link in the chats here to join our Discord server. That's where we kind of, a bunch of the community is there. You can ask questions. People give answers pretty quickly. If you have a question to something, chances are somebody in our community will have an answer for you. So you want to make sure you head over to our Discord, join our server, and start chatting with us between episodes. And we'll be following up in Discord. Each day of the show, we'll have some posts. We'll probably be posting throughout the day, and we'll definitely be following up after the summit for chats. So that'll be a good time. And then next week, for next Monday, Omar, we were talking about we might just do a recap here on AV Tech Talks for Monday night. Just pop in, do a recap of some of the stuff we had seen till that point. We will still have 1 day left of the summit by next Monday, but we'll just, instead of doing a full episode, because we're all got our hands full with the summit, we'll just do a quick recap of what we've seen so far and what we have left to come on the last day. So cool. Well, thanks for taking that detour with us, everyone. We'll kind of get back if there's any other questions about Mitti. Otherwise, we always can kind of wrap early too. If we covered it all, I think everybody's been back to work now, so we're starting to see that people are working. I don't know if Chris, if you've been doing any in person. I know that this yesterday I was doing an LED job for basically a block party in an Italian neighborhood in Queens of the Euro Cup final. So you can imagine how insane and crazy everything was. When Italy won yesterday, it was pretty nuts. When they scored the first goal, it was insane, and then when they won, we had not a huge wall, but we had it on a stage, and people just got up on the stage waving flags and jumping up and down, and I was getting nervous the whole thing was gonna come down for a minute till we could kind of calm everybody down. But it was a great time, and it was great to be outside and doing a big show and seeing a huge crowd enjoying themselves, and being able to bring that to them was great. But yeah, Chris, have you been doing any in person?
No, we haven't. Basically, we haven't done any in-person things at all quite yet. We're still we're in what's known as the yellow stage, where people can voluntarily come back to the office and stuff. But we've been, I've been working on getting, conference rooms set up and things like that. So, so there's been a lot of work for me to kind of prepare for that stuff, but we haven't done any shows or anything like that. Although there might be some sort of hybrid event that comes up at the end of August, where we're going to be actually using this automated camera switching system in this that's just been installed in one of our offices. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that's going to work.
Gotcha. And in preparation for going for doing hybrid events, is I think you said it already, MIDI player might be a good option for if you end up doing an in-room switcher that's hardware for the in-room projection, and then having something like a vMix or an OBS or whatnot, and send those NDI, so you're not dealing with a ton of capture devices for pushing that content. Seems like this might be a good option.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to figure out. That was sort of the problem I was solving for, was because we just had, we were doing it in such a convoluted way to try and, both project in the room and then combine the content and send it out at the same time. So, yeah, I was just trying to figure out a way to make that, a bunch easier. And so that's why I was looking at Mitti.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great, better than doing a scan convert of an output of a Playback Pro or something. Having a solution where it's natively built in is definitely a cool add-on bonus. So I'm going to be playing with it more now that I'm starting to see the live events come back and have that on my machine, because as a freelancer, it's always great when you can save the day with something that you have in your backpack. So that's going to be my goal. And then Iris, are you down in Florida? I know you're working at a lot of convention centers. Are you seeing some stuff coming back in person? I don't hear you there, Iris. Sorry. You might have a different microphone selected or something. I'll give you a second to sort that out, because we did hear you earlier. And then Omar, did you get to do any in person, any 4th of July celebrations over the last week or anything like that?
The last big thing I did was what you guys are seeing a snippet of. I was director for that fashion show. I just did a show. No, I got a show coming tomorrow. It'll be in person, but yeah, nothing too crazy. I've actually had to say no to a lot of work just because of the summit coming up right now. There's a lot to do for it, and we're slammed. So I've been saying no to a lot of things.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was last week. I was on vacation. That's as anybody who tuned in last week. I was in Michigan. I did a couple virtual jobs while I was there, and then while I was on vacation, got the call to do that LED job yesterday, and unfortunately had to make my wife come home a little earlier from Michigan than she had hoped, so that I could go do that job. But
Can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
That is weird because I did nothing different. I just reset everything. Okay. I have no idea what happened there. As far as Florida goes, there's some stuff going on, but personally, I've not been on site for anything. I know a couple of people associated with this group are at a thing, and well, we had the Lightning Boat Parade. So there's some people I know who are involved with various things for the Tampa Bay Lightning celebration of winning their second back-to-back Stanley Cup. It's a slow roll. Some things are up, some things aren't, but there is so much in Central Florida and so many people in Central Florida that it's going to take a while for everyone to get back to it, as far as I can tell. So depends on where you are and what hotel you're in and what's going on at Orange County Convention Center and Tampa Convention Center and all that.
And then you're what, in the Orlando area, is that right?
Yeah, Central Florida, Orlando, also out of Tampa sometimes. So they're kind of interchangeable. Orlando, Tampa, people go back and forth all the time.
Yeah, I've kind of picked up on that from Omar and some of the other people who are in the community from Florida. It seems like you guys do a lot of driving to get to and from jobs.
Yes, for the most part. There's
the pay is different and different. Like Florida's got a market, but like South Florida, Central Florida, there's different pay scales. So
I mean, I had
a
while ago, I had a gig that I drove down to Miami Beach, and then they come up here, and you're pretty much all over the state.
Yeah,
I've done work. Yeah, Tampa, Orlando. I mean, I'm in Miami all the time, but Orlando, Tampa, like my two other homes, and once in a blue moon, I'll do like one show a year, maybe in Naples.
It's
I've
been a
done-
while, but a couple of years ago I went to Jacksonville. Yeah,
Oh, see, Jacksonville is like very random for me. Like I may or may not go there after a couple of years.
Jacksonville's random, yes. But yeah, if you're in Florida, you're pretty much bouncing the markets as far
Interesting.
as, yeah.
I'm just outside New York City, within 25 miles of Manhattan. So a lot of my work is there. But a lot of the techs in New York City only work within New York City. Many of the techs don't have cars, the freelance techs,
Right.
because in New York City, in the 5 boroughs, you don't really need a car to get around. There's so much public transportation. So I get to work other places since I live outside the city. I have vehicles and I go to Connecticut and Jersey and whatnot. Not so much anywhere upstate New York, further than where I am. Westchester County, sometimes, which is just directly across the Hudson River from me. But we don't, in New York, we don't travel as far of a range for the work. Most of it's, centrally located. And then sometimes, like I said, I'll go to Connecticut, but and New Jersey, but I don't have to do like a 5-hour trek between Orlando and Miami or what have you.
So we do have a train system that goes from pretty much maybe not Key West anymore, but like from Miami all the way to Orlando, and you can get off and go to Tampa. And there's another one they're building called the Bright Line, which is like the faster version. But for the price, I mean, you could just drive the same. It takes almost the same time as driving. Like you don't really save much time. And even the faster train, the Bright Line, you only save about 30 minutes. But then you're still without a car, and they only go to like the Bright Line, even though it's a little bit faster, only goes to the MCO airport. So you're like right at the bottom of Orlando, and everything you got to go further up for. And
there was all this talk about high-speed rail and making it better, but even with high-speed rail, there were only going to be stops at like International Drive, which is the convention center, and
Right.
Disney and Universal, but it wasn't anywhere else. So if you were at like Amalie Arena or anything like that, it wouldn't help you anyway.
yeah, so you have to take a train and then take an Uber Lyft. So it's like at that point, you might as well take your own
You
car.
would take your car.
Yeah, you're gonna save 30 minutes and then pay double. Like, nah, I'm good.
These are all things I'm going to have to consider. I've been considering and thinking about relocating. So I don't know, Florida. It looks like at least I own a hybrid. So
If you got a car, man, you're good to go.
Pretty much.
yeah, I do.
Great tax write-off.
Think of
Yeah,
it this
and
way, parking is not nearly as expensive here as it is in Manhattan.
Yeah, well, not very few things are as expensive as parking in Manhattan.
And Orlando, so Miami's got a lot of pay to park. Orlando's got a lot of as long as you're in a work environment, and even in Miami too, but as long as you can get in the hotels, you can usually get your ticket stamped to make it free. But Miami's got a lot of smaller properties where, like, unless you're staying there, you're not parking anywhere near there. Orlando, you can almost always find parking within walking distance for free to where you got to go, or at the property, and then get yourself valeted or get your tickets to pass. Yeah.
And
So,
even
like,
the ones you can't, they're not that bad that much.
Yeah, you can. If you're wearing all black, you hit the call button and say, "Hey, I was working XYZ event." Okay, yeah, no problem. They open the gate for you.
And then, Chris, remind me where you're located at. I always forget.
I'm in San Francisco.
So opposite coast of me. That's great.
Right.
Which is why there's sunlight coming through that window behind you.
That's why. Yeah. I'm still rocking it out. But yeah, so I'm I know all your places because I'm originally from New York, so and have been to Florida plenty of times. So
nice. Yeah. Well, hopefully everybody starts seeing some more in-person work coming back. I'm getting lots of calls from people who are, labor coordinators who are have too much work and not enough techs. So hopefully that starts hitting everywhere the same way, and everybody gets back to work. We took another long detour there, but if there's any last questions, I put those out in the chat. Last Mitti questions. I don't see anything right now on social. So we may actually just wrap a little early. That never happens. We always
We're usually late.
wrap late. Yeah.
I'm all about
So-
wrapping on time. I like it.
Yeah, no. So we've only got a few minutes left to the hour anyway, so we'll just wrap it a couple minutes early. We do want to make sure that we take a moment to thank the DVE store for their continued support. Anybody who is watching, it's at least being delivered to you in 1080p, and that's a direct reason for directly responsible because of the DVE store's support to get that 1080p everywhere, including here in the Zoom webinar. So if you, again, we do some behind the scenes stuff before the show. Sometimes we usually hang after. And even here in Zoom, it's 1080p. If you haven't been on a 1080p Zoom meeting, just register and come join us for that alone. But also visit dvestore.com and let them know, hey, we heard about you guys from AV Tech Talks, because they would love to hear that. And they can help you out with any of your equipment needs, anything you need, any video. You need some PTZ optics cameras, they carry those, all sorts of stuff. So check out dvestore.com and again, let them know that AV Tech Talks is where you heard about them. They love that, and they support us, and we're very grateful for it. So with that, Omar, I'm sure you're busy, and this Wednesday, maybe there might not be is there a podcast this Wednesday?
So this Wednesday, it might just be me and Chris, and obviously Ed and DC if you guys want to join. Just kind of doing a talk about, what we think are going to be talked about, what we kind of assume some of the talks will be about for the summits. And then if anybody has any questions about, what they saw, what they're seeing, and if, hey, I need more clarification on something, that'll be the moment to do it, kind of is really at that point.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll just, we'll get together and just have a chat about what's to come, so people can expect anything. And if anybody has any issues getting tickets or navigating the site, just let us know so that we, you might not be the only person having an issue. Let us know so we can fix it right away, and or help you out, send you some tech support to make sure you get all registered and able to see the stuff you want to see. And I guess with that, let me just change that view right there. And oh, that's interesting. I see. So I just want to, oops. You'd think I've done this before. Just want to thank our panel. Thanks to Omar, Iris, Jeff, who stepped away from his machine, and Chris for participating tonight. Omar, thank you for talking about Mitti. Again, we had because I mixed up something with the schedule. We were going to talk about Coyote Systems. We had somebody who was going to present, and literally today, Omar, I told him, hey, can you talk about anything? And he's like, well, I have Mitti player, and we can talk about that. So today came together literally maybe 2 hours before showtime. So thank you, Omar, for dealing with that on the fly. You did a great job. I'm going to dive more into Mitti player following this, just because I forgot about the usefulness for upcoming hybrid events, and I definitely see a use for it with the NDI and HDMI outputs you can do from a single machine simultaneously. I think that's going to be super useful. So with that, we'll call it a night, and we'll say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see everybody again this Sunday for the summit. And then next week, we'll do kind of a recap during this time for the summit. But make sure you go get over there. Omar, if you have those links, just drop those links one more time so people can go get those tickets. Like I said, reach out to the speakers. They can help you with some discounted tickets. And to answer, Robert had asked on Facebook about replays. So everything will be recorded, but the only way to get access to those is going to be if you have the VIP all access pass. So the sessions aren't going to be public. It's only going to be through the VIP passes. So that's a good reason to to get the VIP pass. So if you can't make it to a session that you really want to get to, you'll at least have access to the archives afterwards. So, but that's if you have any questions about that, reach out to us, and we'll be happy to kind of help navigate you through that if you need it. But thanks everybody, and we'll see you starting for the summit on Sunday, and then back here on Monday to chat about what's happened. So, good night. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do my outro playlist. There, that one.